We're going to talk about something that affects everyone, no matter who you are, where you live, doesn't matter. This affects every single person on the planet. Because how often do we see where we take a bad moment and that will define our day, or a bad day and that will define our week, or a bad week and that defines our year? And in this video, we're going to dive really deep on happiness and joy, how fulfillment fits into all of this, and why you shouldn't let one negative or a combination of negative experiences define your life. Welcome back. This is Kevin. This is a deep subject, and it's one that I'm very familiar with. And I really want to talk about it because I think the world that we're in now can leave a lot of people feeling a certain kind of way. And sometimes we can't seem to break out of the ruts that we get in, and we can't seem to break free from the negativity. So I really want to talk about how we can use our mind, use our outlook, and create happiness no matter what's going on around us. And I don't share a whole lot about my personal life, but who the hell am I to talk about this stuff? Well, I'm just a guy. I'm not anybody special. I'm just a guy who's been through some things. You've been through some things. We've all been through some things. But in 2019, my then 4-year-old son was diagnosed with cancer, and I learned what it means to find happiness in very, very dark times for me. And that is not the worst thing that could happen to a person. My son is doing great. He just turned 10 years old. He's an honor roll student. He's doing great. Loves football, like all the things. And so we're very blessed in that way. But through that experience, I had to really exercise a lot of different skills to manufacture happiness and to not stay in the negative. And it was 2.5, 3 years of just a boot camp of mindset control. And so while I don't have all the knowledge in the world and I don't have all the experience in the world, I do have experience for me and my family in this. And so I hope you have nothing even close to that. And I hope you learn from this so that if you do experience that, that you can use it. And if you are experiencing some tough times, I hope this will shed some light on maybe some things you didn't try. So let's first start talking about the moments versus mindset. And what I mean by that is, we all have moments. And it could be, you're stuck in a traffic jam or someone gets a little road rage on you or things don't quite go your way. Those are all moments. Now, do we carry those things over into our other aspects of our life? Do we bring that traffic jam to our dinner table with our kids? Do we bring that into our relationship? Sure, sometimes we do. It can derail us. So the mindset is an important piece of not letting these moments dictate our lives. And here's a fun fact that is actually not so fun. Psychologists have this thing they call negativity bias. And what they've determined is that humans like to focus on negative things more than positive things, just by nature. You may gather that by if you watch any news channel across the country, you may gather what sells the news. Not a lot of people on the news going, yay, us, we did good job. There's a lot of bad news. And in my area, when we run out of local bad news, we go to other people's bad news, and so that's the negativity bias. And if you think about it, like I don't have a big following on social media or anything, and I get plenty of likes and comments, but one negative comment can really can kind of get me a little bit. Now, it doesn't ruin my day or even my moment, but for some people it could. And so that's the negativity bias, where we get hundreds of compliments and one negative comment, and we feel a certain kind of way about it. And so the point I'm making is that your mindset is everything. Your mindset is the most powerful tool you have when you're talking about these negative moments in life, or something that you didn't want to see on social media, or you accidentally turned that channel on, or someone said something to you just in passing. Your mindset is everything. So as soon as you acknowledge that this negative thing is coming in fact, the sooner you acknowledge it, the sooner you can exercise positive mindset tactics to pause and reframe, or to divert, or to move and break the pattern, to do something, make a different choice. There's a lot of things you can do with your mindset that will take these negative moments and not let them stick around. Now, I can't control a negative moment in my life. Sometimes things happen that I don't choose for them to happen to me, and they just do, and I got to deal with it. Cancer was one of them. I didn't choose that. My son didn't choose that. My wife didn't choose that. We just had to deal with it. And when you understand that, you say, I didn't choose the negativity. I choose the thoughts that happen after the negativity. And I choose the energy that comes after the negativity. And I know that sounds really easy to do. I'm making it super simple. But if you rely on your mindset to overcome these negative thoughts, you will be the superpower in the equation, not the event or the circumstances. And when we're talking about mindset, it's really, one of the things that really works for me is I've got to understand the words I'm talking about. And when we talk about happiness and joy, a lot of people use those two words interchangeably, but they're quite different if you ask me. And here's the difference in happiness and joy. Happiness is the thing that most people want. In fact, you say to most people, what do you want out of life? What do you want to, right before you pass away, right before you die, what do you want to say your life was? And most people say, I wanted to say I lived a happy life. That's understandable, but happiness is determined by external forces. So circumstances around you, your environment, all of those things dictate happiness. Eating ice cream, oh, that makes me happy. My doctor says I shouldn't do it, but that makes me happy. So that's an idea of happiness. Joy, on the other hand, is an internal state. It's internal being. I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. She defines joy as internal peace and contentment despite the things going on around you. That's not an actual quote, that's just summarizing. And the point she's trying to make is that joy is a choice even when things aren't perfect. In fact, I would go one step further and argue and say the real skill of joy is that no matter what's going on, you can choose joy all the time. No matter how bad life gets, what's going on in your life, you can choose joy. Sometimes it's easier than others. You know, it was hard for me to choose joy in a pediatric cancer hospital, but I was still able to do it. And over time, it started to become something I gravitated to more easily. And my mentor and boss, Tony Robbins, talks about happiness and joy quite a bit. And he says that happiness is a feeling and joy comes from more of a sense of contribution and growth. So how do we create joy in our lives? One of the best ways and one of the things that I've used most often is gratitude. Not this manufactured social media gratitude. I'm talking deep meditative gratitude. You know, when I start feeling overwhelmed that, you know, maybe I'm not where I should be at this age in my life or this stage in my life, and I start to compare a little bit, I will sit back and say, look at all these things around me. Look at all this that I've created. Look at all this that I have. Look at all this that I am. You know, and when you're in that deep of a sense of gratitude, it's incredibly hard to be angry at the same time. It really is. In fact, most would argue you can't be grateful and angry in the same moment. You can't do it. So really getting into that sense of gratitude, pausing everything, saying, let me remind myself what I'm grateful for. For me personally, I have a wife that loves me. I have a son, which I adore, and we have a great relationship. I have a house. I have a car. There's food in my cupboard. There's food in my refrigerator. I have clothes. I have heat. I have air conditioning. All these things that my wife and I have created that create gratitude for me, that make it very difficult to experience anything other than joy. And the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley, they studied this and they said that people that practice gratitude show higher innate senses of joy, which is amazing. That's what we're going for. So when you look at joy versus happiness, happiness is coming from external things, that you got the promotion, you got the chocolate bar, you got the new car, whatever. It's an external thing, whereas joy is something that we can create within us. So when someone asks you the question next, that what do you want out of life? Try responding, I want control of my joy. I want to create joy in everything I do. The next thing that's important when we talk about, not letting moments dictate our days or weeks is understanding the difference between fulfillment and achievement. And you've probably heard Tony Robbins say that success without fulfillment is ultimate failure. And I could not agree more with that. It's something that I really work on, that I focus on. I keep it in my brain at all times that if I'm not being fulfilled in what I'm doing, the level of success I might or might not achieve is irrelevant, because without fulfillment, that achievement means nothing. It's actually failure. And a lot of people fall into the trap of chasing achievement, chasing the awards, chasing the check marks without the fulfillment. And that's why you might look out in the world and say, wow, okay, I know a few millionaires or people who don't have to worry about money, but they're still unhappy. That is achievement without fulfillment. And then you might look out in the world again and say, wow, I know a lot of plumbers and people who make great livings, but they're modest. They're not, wealthy by the standards of society, but they're so happy. They've got so much joy. They're just really loving what they do, and so that's really what you want. And every person is different. So the things that make me feel fulfilled, that will bring me success, are going to be very different from the things you might feel fulfilled and find success in. So we've got to stop this blanket statement of this is what success looks like, and then having everyone rush towards that, and then half the people that get it feel lousy. They feel terrible. They're not fulfilled at all. And they become depressed. They have anxiety. They get all the things that they shouldn't have after achieving this great goal. But that is the trap of chasing achievement versus fulfillment. So how do we find fulfillment in our achievements? Well, it starts by the things that you're chasing to begin with. Find things that you're going to chase that mean something to you. It's purposeful. It makes you feel like you're growing. It makes you feel like you matter. But most people, I find, especially in business, entrepreneurs come to me all the time and say, I want to make $1 million. And I say, what are you going to do with it? And they say, well, I'm going to buy stuff. I'm going to buy a house, buy a car, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, how is that supposed to make you feel? And then they say, great, secure, worry-free, carefree. And I have to pause in that moment and ask more questions, because for some people it will, but for most people, those things will not make you feel joy. They won't make you feel happiness, really, for a small period of time perhaps, but not for the length of your life. It won't. So we've got to really start chasing fulfillment and understand that success comes after fulfillment, not before. So a lot of people think that if I get success, then I'll be fulfilled in that success, and the success didn't mean anything. But if we start by chasing fulfillment and let success around that fulfillment show up, now we've got a whole different equation we're working with, a whole different life, a whole different scenario. So that's really where you start. You start by analyzing what you're chasing. Are you chasing achievement or are you chasing fulfillment? If you're chasing achievement, be very, very careful. If you're chasing fulfillment, great, double down on that. The next thing you really want to do is how to take a bad day, because we're all going to have them. You can't prevent bad days. I can't prevent bad days. Some bad weeks and bad months. I had a few bad years in there, but I still found joy in my bad years. So we've got to understand that we can't let bad moments dictate our lives, permeate our relationships, to control our money. We can't do that. Research from Stanford University shows that people who are resilient have one key trait. They're able to reframe moments. So instead of seeing a bad moment as a disaster, they see it as temporary. So if you have to look at what is a trait that really breeds resilience, how do I grow my resilience? It is that trait. It is the trait of being able to reframe. I tell my clients this all the time. We've got to reframe. Can I offer you a reframe? Can I reframe that for you? So when we look at things from a different angle, we put in perspective, is if someone got your order wrong at a restaurant, is that really that bad? So maybe, but let me zoom out a little bit. All right, one, you had a car that took you to the restaurant. You had money to pay for food and you were eating something at will. When you were hungry, you were eating. You sat in a building that was climate controlled. Someone brought you things. And now we're judging our whole day, our whole experience on, but the things they brought me weren't what I wanted. Was it food? Did you eat it? Could you eat it? Yes. So that's a little example of reframe, how instead of letting the wrong order at a restaurant ruin our night and ruin our day, we can reframe it and say, you know what? This is sustenance. This is food. I'm grateful to be here with these folks and to be able to pay for it. I drove here and we're going to drive home. All of those, that's how you reframe it to really isolate a bad situation or a bad moment and then move on into your joy. So as we dive deeper on mindset, because all this hones around mindset, the reframe practice is mindset, completely mindset. But what do we really do? How do we really exercise mindset to the point that we're having these bad moments or bad times and we're not letting it dictate our lives? Harvard Medical School did research that said the practice of mindfulness is something that will mitigate bad moments from becoming bad days, bad weeks, bad years. And what mindfulness does is it reduces stress, but it also keeps us in the present moment. It helps us keep perspective. So instead of saying this moment ruined the next week, we're not even thinking about the next week. We're simply staying in this moment. We're staying right here with it. And that's mindfulness. That's a mindful practice. And you can't project the energy beyond this moment if you're staying in the moment. Now, if you're saying, oh, my dinner on Tuesday is ruining Friday night, you're going to go through every day between Tuesday and Friday, and that moment is going to ruin every day in your mind, subconscious mind, and then you land on Friday, and now Friday's ruined. That's not mindfulness. That's just letting this moment permeate your entire life. But mindfulness is something that will reduce that stress. It will put perspective on your bad moments, and it'll help you just snap out of it. Reframing is such a mindful practice because it just puts perspective, and one of the questions I ask myself when I'm reframing is, will this matter in a year? Will I think about this in a year? If the answer is no, I let it go. Will this matter in 3 years? Will this matter in 5 years? If I'm investing in something, when I invested in my coach, I said, will this money matter in 5 years? And the answer was no. It was a lot of money, but the answer was no, because in 5 years, I will have made more money and I will have grown and I will have become a different person and I'll have different experiences. So no, this money won't matter as much as it does in this moment, so I can let that go and to make a decision based on what's best for me. And so I got a funny story for you about reframe. Thomas Edison in 1914, one of the factories he was working in burned to the ground. Instead of being bummed out about the factory burning to the ground, he looked at everyone that was around and he said, the great news is this: all of our mistakes just burned, so we can start fresh. No one's hurt. It's just a building. It's just stuff, and it's burning to the ground. And he's of the perspective of, thank goodness all of our mistakes are burning down, and we can start fresh. I just think that's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful sentiment. Take that with you. Remind yourself of that. And the last thing I want to mention is something that Tony Robbins says. I mention him a lot because he's such an impactful person in my life. But he says this: your destiny is determined by the decisions you make today, not the circumstances you are in. I think that's so powerful because when we talk about what do we control, well, I don't control my circumstances most of the time. I didn't control cancer. I didn't control the hospital. I couldn't fix it. The only thing I could control were my decisions, my energy, the things I was bringing to the moment. And my wife and I both stand by this, that if we did one thing right, we brought great energy into my son battling cancer. We brought great energy into it. And I put my flag in the ground on that. If there's one thing in my life that I'm proud of, I know we did that right because every day we made the decision to do that. We had a talk at the very early on and we decided that's what we were going to do. And so I can tell you this, if you get really good at saying the things I control are my decisions and my energy, I'm going to control my decision first and my energy next, and the circumstances that are happening around me will change if I do that enough. They have to. The circumstances around me will change if my decisions change. And that's your power. That's where you control it. So I hope the big takeaway you got from this is we're striving for joy, we're striving for fulfillment, and we're controlling our energy and our decisions. And if we do that, there's almost impossible for a bad moment to make a bad day. It's almost impossible for a bad day to make a bad week or a bad week to make a bad year. And what we want is to stack as many of these mindful practices on top of each other so that when things do happen that are negative, because we can't avoid that, we have the toolkit to deal with it. I hope this video was very helpful for you. If it was, please give me a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel or share it with someone you love who might need to hear this. But really work through your week and isolate these bad moments and tackle those bad moments and move on. If you can do that, your life will improve. Your business will improve. Your well-being will improve. Your relation, everything in your life will improve. I promise you that. Because when we start making better decisions and more powerful decisions, we start living a different life. If you have any questions, hit the comments below. My name's Kevin. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you.